I couldn't get out of bed. So life just stopped. Bang. Nothing.
But when I read this list out, walking, sleeping, playing with the grandsons, having fun, can we tick all of those boxes?
Double ticks with stars. You don't have chronic fatigue. It's gone. It's in the past. Goodbye.
Today we are speaking with Jackie, who has very kindly offered to give us some of her time to share her journey to recovery with ME, chronic fatigue syndrome. So Jackie, a big thank you and welcome.
Thank you, I'm honoured.
So Jackie, we first crossed paths many years ago. So how long ago was it you did the lightning process?
At least 12 years.
12 years. Okay. So a lot has happened in that 12 years and I want to hear all about it.
Oh my God.
But before we go there, it would be really lovely to hear about the journey that led up to you getting sick. So what was life like for you before you got sick?
Busy, 3 kids at home, working as a nurse, very busy, kids sailing, playing sport, and there was never time to just be. But that was okay. That's how life was. And then my first husband, my late husband, got sick with liver cancer and got through that time, big surgery. 2 years later, I had a mild cold and I couldn't walk to the toilet. And that's how it was for the next 12 years.
Yeah, it's such a common pathway, a really difficult period in our lives, and stressful, and then
Very stressful.
something small like a cold that we normally bounce out of, suddenly it knocks us around.
Yeah, I couldn't reconcile that I didn't have the stress level that I'd had previously. So why didn't I get sick then? But of course I couldn't get sick then because I had to do all this caring and didn't realise that was all tied up.
Yeah, those patterns of being there for everyone else and giving your energy to others until it becomes too much. So you got a cold and a mild cold. So what was the journey from that point to realising this was something big?
The fact that I couldn't get out of bed. I had to lean on the wall to get to the toilet. So life just stopped. Bang. Nothing. My kids very quickly learned to, I think the oldest was 14, very quickly learned how to cook, how to iron their school shirts, and how to vacuum and do washing. Because if they didn't, my husband would do it all, but he was sick. And so they had to do it, or they had no clean clothes.
Yeah. The impact of chronic illness never affects one person. There's always these ripple effects to others. Wow.
You have no idea. One of my adult son, who's one of them, he's 46, and he said, and we lived through that, Mum. Oh my gosh, it sort of hit me like a ton of bricks, really.
Yeah. And it was a long period. So you had ME, chronic fatigue syndrome, for over a decade. Is that correct?
Yes, 12 years. Yeah. Yes.
12 years. Okay.
I would have a period where I could get up for a while and then I'd go down. Never come quite back up to where I was before. That was the scary bit because I thought, well, where does this finish? Eventually I could, because I hadn't been able to work, I could go back to work for a few hours. And if I wasn't back home, in bed within 4 hours, I would vomit. Wow. And my family said it was like watching one of those cartoon movies on TV where the person just goes white. And my face would go numb and I would vomit.
Wow. Wow, that's huge. And one of the things we talk about in the training is just the impact of that ups and downs, and it ruins people's confidence and trust in their own body.
Gosh, absolutely. And what do I do to change this? I tried every opathy imaginable, like most people, everything. And the GP, when I went to see my GP, he said I wouldn't have believed in this condition except I have a 16-year-old nephew on a farm down south who one day couldn't stand up. He said, otherwise I would not have believed the success.
Wow, that is a really interesting comment on on how misunderstood the condition is. If a GP needs a personal experience to believe it, it's really insightful.
Yeah.
So a long, challenging 12 years.
Yes.
And then you came across the lightning process via someone,
yes,
so long ago that, can you remind me?
My cousin in England, I hadn't told because I came from the UK when I was 10, and cousins that I'm very, very close to. And in my Christmas card, I wrote that I have ME. And she rang me. She received the card and rang me straight away and said, you need to do the lightning process. And I said, what are you talking about? She said, she had a neighbour, their daughter was a teacher and developed ME, couldn't work. They'd had to take her back home, heard about the lightning process, put her on a mattress in the back seat and drove from the middle of the UK to Wales to do the lightning process. 3 weeks later, they carried her in the car on a mattress and she went back to work 3 weeks later.
Wow. They're powerful stories.
Yes.
Almost unbelievable. So how was your reaction to hearing such a rapid change? Like after 12 years, I'm sure it's exciting. What was your reaction?
I thought, my gosh. And then I thought, I'm going to the UK. I've ordered a wheelchair. Help. Don't expect to do anything when I see everyone, but just get in and out of bed and say hello. And I thought, no. So that's when I looked it all up and contacted you. And we went from there. So we lived 4 minutes walk to the beach. I couldn't walk to the beach. Couldn't walk to the letterbox to get the mail. I look back now and I just think, my gosh, it really is survival mode.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Just getting by and not being able to do these things that bring us joy, like walking to the beach. It's huge.
It is.
So you made contact with me and you got through the application process. So I don't accept everyone. So Jackie, well done.
Thank you.
And I looked at the application just before this interview, and one of the things that we look at is just the importance of goals. And because we're working with retraining the brain needs a really good reason to change because this is survival and change comes with risks. And so we need these motivators. So your motivators were very simple, but this is life. To be able to walk, to be able to sleep, to be able to play with the grandsons and have fun. So things that so many people take for granted, you couldn't access at that point.
No.
So you apply to the training, you get through. How did you find the training itself?
Well, I had to do an hour flight to Auckland from Wellington and half an hour, 45 minutes to get to the airport from home. So that's an hour 45 and got a shuttle to my accommodation. And of course had my usual food and drink with me, my backup, and went to bed at the motel. The next morning, went to the course. And I remember one of the first things you said was, you're all geniuses. You're not sick. You're all geniuses. And I thought, oh, this guy's in dreamland. Genius. Well, and from there, you had me absolutely eating out of your hand because what you said as a nurse, what you said made such sense that you start off with the stress, it kicks off your fight-flight, stress goes, your fight-flight's still going. That mind-body loop, it was so simple the way you explained it. There was one lady there who had a plastic shopping bag must have been at least a dozen bottles of pills. And about every 5 minutes, she was sprinkling this bag to get vitamins sort of thing. There was one lady who was a school teacher and she couldn't go shopping. Teaching, standing up, doing her job, she couldn't go shopping. On our final day, she came in with a loaf of bread like a big Oscar. The lady, the plastic bags, they didn't come after the first day. And these things are so poignant to me. So we did the first day. I had to go and sit out a couple of times just on the landing. It was hard work. But I just thought, this is the key to my life. One of the girls dropped me near my motel, and I went into a little dairy shop to get a bottle of water. And I had to stop from that dairy about every 3 steps and self-coach. Every 3 steps, self-coach. I got to the motel room, realised I'd left my books back at the dairy, so I did the same thing in reverse. I got to the motel room, and all these little hands were saying from the bed, come to me. I had to shut the door. And I remember you saying, Ian, that you will know when the adrenaline turns off. And I thought, well, that's a good one. So I promised myself, my goal that I said out loud that day was to go to the hotel over the road and have dinner. And I sat there, ordered my dinner, my meal, and at 8 p.m., the adrenaline stopped.
Oh, yeah.
And I went, it was just like I'd walked through the Golden Gate. My mind wasn't fizzing. My face wasn't numb. I wasn't nauseous. And I looked around. It sounds doolally, but I looked around and I saw that place through different eyes because I wasn't clouded by stress.
Yeah. Wow.
And so I caught the train back. On the second day, I caught the train nearby the motel. And I was so keen to get on this train to go and read my stuff that I got on the wrong train. Now, normally I would have been in a flat spin. How am I going to cope with this? So we're heading way past my stop. It didn't stop. It was a fast express train. So I looked up and I said to a few people, oh, I can't get off at my stop. Oh, well, never mind. I'll go to the end of the line and come back. What a life change, being able to think like that, not pre-planning, preparing. So blow me down. There was one of the people in the carriage went and spoke to someone who spoke to the guard. Well, the next thing, so now we're heading back to Auckland Central. The next thing, the guard came to me and said, don't tell anyone we're doing this, but we're going to stop the train at your station, be ready and just walk out of the door and go. And they did. They stopped the train. And I'm going, this is surreal.
Wow. There's just so much in that. So much I could comment on, but I'm mostly just overjoyed that when you were telling that story of leaving the notes, the training notes at the shop. I'm overjoyed that you told that story because I have been telling people that story for over a decade.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad that you've
really
said that it's accurate because that was certainly my memory as well. And just the consistency was so impressive. And I guess that comes back to the importance of goals. Just
that's
wanting
true.
something so important that I'm willing to do the work. And I understand that the work is logical. I think that really helps from a nursing background to understand, okay, there's a science behind this so you can confidently do the work. And it isn't always easy. It would be lovely if I could offer a sort of a easy way out, but sometimes it takes hard work, and you've shown that, and you show that it can certainly pay off as well. And I think if anyone's listening to this, there was a comment that you made that I said to you, you weren't sick. I think that just requires a little bit of clarification.
Yes.
The way that I think it's useful to see chronic fatigue syndrome is things aren't working. Things absolutely aren't working. But it's not a form of brokenness. It's just that how the mind and the body are working together is so stuck on the past strategies linked to stress that you're very stuck. And so, yes, it is real. It is physical. I just don't think it's useful to sit in that model of broken, damaged person, and more useful to see it as overprotected because of past experiences.
I never ever believed that I was sick. I refused to say that I was sick because I was dealing in the past, of course, with many very, very sick people, and I didn't fit that. And so overprotective is a much better descriptor for me. And just about 6 months after that, I actually went back to work full-time in a new job.
Wow.
I had to get a doctor's letter, and the doctor said, "Are you well enough to do this?" And I said, "Absolutely, look at me." He said, "Good, no problem." And I don't think I ever had a day's sick leave.
Oh, wow.
From that work, I was asked to go and working in the community to go and visit a 14-year-old champion swimmer, this 14-year-old. And she was in a wheelchair. And her mum said, "Could you please tell us your story?" So I told her. And I remember it was spring because I'd taken her some daffodil bulbs for her to watch them grow. And as a result of that, we sat and we had a glass of water and just a chat. Her mum left the room. And I said, "This is how I felt." Didn't want to really say it in front of your mum, but this is how I felt. And the tears rolled down her cheeks. 3 weeks later, she came up to the course in Auckland, and she was back swimming champions.
Yeah, the power of someone's recovery story it unlocks recovery for so many people, which is why I am so passionate about doing these interviews so that people can hear, it is possible. It is possible. It might take work and I might have to see things in a different way as well, but it certainly is possible. Wow, what a story.
And Lightning Process has helped me through breast cancer, double mastectomy and thyroid treatment, husband with 2 strokes, moving to a retirement village because we weren't coping, funerals of some very close nursing friends, and the Lightning Process has been almost like a guide on my shoulder because I knew I could manage it. And that's how powerful it's been of being able to control that environment. So I'll be in Melbourne in March, sadly miss you by a whisker, and I'm going to the Melbourne Flower Show.
Lovely.
Because I do floral art. And I am so looking forward to it. I'm going with the tour, but I know that I will be able to walk and get around as long as I want to. And that's what the Lightning Process has taught me that I can do.
Yeah, I think that's a really useful piece to share there, Jackie, because sometimes people look at the Lightning Process as a way to get rid of my symptoms. But the way that I see it is that they are an understanding of how the mind and the body work and how the brain influences a lot of what goes on. And understanding that sets you up for really skills for life, to be able to move through life differently.
Yes, very much so.
And I would probably say that when people approach the training as a way to get rid of symptoms, they won't really get the full benefit, because the importance of taking a bigger step back and looking at all the patterns that have been running sometimes from childhood to address those, so that not only do you get well, but you stay well is so critical. So here you are, years down the track, clearly staying well.
But I remember one poignant thing that you said was, and it really resonated, you will have a chair at home that is not serving you well. And I thought, I don't have a sick chair. No, I'm not sick. Well, I went home and I sat in my usual armchair. Bang, it's back to square one. So I got rid of that armchair, sat in another one. I changed bedrooms, so there were no memories there. And all of these things all added up to me getting better.
It's so important when you recognize that fatigue is triggered, not caused. It's triggered, and it can be triggered by just a chair. The brain goes into autopilot and triggers a response. It just opens up so much insight.
Gosh.
And also gets people to realize counting steps is so not the way forward, as if fatigue is a running out of energy. It can be triggered by a chair or a person
and
or
I
a conversation.
Thought, really? You said, what will help you? So I wanted to be calm with energy. Yes, so compassionately was another word that you use. And I have to say that really woke me up.
Yeah.
Am I compassionate with myself? I'm compassionate with other people. But I really wasn't being that compassionate with myself, because after my husband's second stroke, total personality change. So I was getting these terrible triggers, and of course my reaction wasn't the best. That's where lightning process helped me, because I could reflect and gain control again.
Yeah.
So I could be compassionate to myself and to him. So thank you.
A lot of approaches to recovery are almost self-hatred. It's like this viciousness trying to get rid of these horrible symptoms. But when you understand that the symptoms are actually a protection response coming from a kind, loving brain that's been through something big, we can have absolute self-compassion. And our first response is always more about our past. But then it's what happens next. It's if you can bring self-compassion with skills and knowledge to change it, life changes. It's huge.
It puts you back in the driving seat. But that's how poignant that course was.
Yeah. I have a memory. To share, Jackie. And just before we pushed record, I checked in with you because it seemed so fantastically weird that I had to check in. Is this actually what happened? So can you tell us, your journey just a few months after taking the training? I love this story.
Before the training, I had booked to go to the UK. And I had visions of, I booked wheelchair assistance. I had visions of going from the aeroplane to an overnight hotel in Singapore, being in bed, getting out of bed, going to the airport, getting out of the plane at Heathrow, and how was I going to manage that? So when my cousin rang me and told me about this course, I thought, maybe there is a way to cope with this. So a few months later, I flew to Singapore. I had 3 days in Singapore. I got off a 12-hour flight, put my luggage at the hotel, and I went out around Singapore for 6 hours. And my trip to the UK was fantastic. I did everything that I could have wanted. I went out and about with family, and I had a marvellous trip as I'm looking forward to Melbourne. And I look at my notes, and I look at what lightning processes helped me with, supported me to manage. And I just go, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a transformed life.
It is. It's done. Regaining living for me.
Yeah. So when I read this list out, walking, sleeping, playing with the grandsons, having fun. Can we tick all of those boxes?
Double ticks with stars.
I thought so. So well done. Well done. Jackie, are there any insights that you might have or things that really helped you?
Golly. I think
I've put you on the spot.
Yeah, that's okay. It's okay. I think the biggest one was it's okay. It's okay to stop. It's okay to refigure. And it's okay to accept that you don't have that anymore. You don't have it. You don't have chronic fatigue. It's gone. It's in the past. Goodbye.
Yeah.
And live. And I've been very, very blessed to remarry and have a second special person in my life. The one who's had the strokes just a year after we got married was his first stroke. And so, yet again, the lightning process has helped me with our journey as it is now.
It must have been nice to have a doctor sign off on that as well, like a sort of a very formal, okay, you're done, it's behind you.
It's like a big full stop.
Yeah.
And I had not a moment's hesitation when he said to me, do you think you can do this full-time work in a new job, in a new area of nursing? And I said, yes, absolutely. Not a split second's hesitation. That's amazing.
Yeah, so the confidence is back that some of the patterns that might have led you into the situation were gone.
Long gone. I won't allow them. Every now and then I just go away, self-coach, however many times I need to. When I've been self-coaching, this is what has interested me. It takes me 10 minutes, and it was quite a revelation. So 3 PM, I'm just feeling so tired. It would be so easy to go and lie on the bed. 3 PM, after all, you've been busy, you know. But I will at that point go and self-coach. And 10 minutes later, I feel like I've just got up in the morning.
Yeah. It's a different understanding of rest and sleep and fatigue. And I think it's really up to date with a modern understanding of fatigue. That
it is.
Sleep actually takes energy from us. Like 8 hours sleep uses the same amount of energy as swimming butterfly for half an hour. But we wake up refreshed because it's all about the brain. Sleep is for the brain, and fatigue is, brain trying to protect. So it changes everything.
Amazing.
Well, Jackie, it has been a delight to connect with you and to hear your story and to hear that I haven't been making up stories when I tell other people about this amazing Jackie.
One thing I think that I must say, and sorry, Ian, is that when I came home, before we came home, finished the course and came home, and it was really, really important that I heard this, is that some people may ask you, so it was all in your head. I walked in the door and Alan, my second husband, said, so it was all in your head. And I'm going, thank you, Ian, because my brain was expecting that.
Yeah.
I said, actually, no, it's not. It's my body just being out of whack for a while.
Yeah, I think when I talk about the brain all the time, and when people hear me talk about the brain, some people just change that to the organ that does the thinking. But actually, that's the least important thing the brain does. It controls our body. So,
that's right.
we are stuck in this old way of seeing things as either physical or psychological with no connection. And the lightning process is understanding that that's not how humans are. That's not what health is about. So a mind-body approach to very real physical conditions that you can retrain your brain out of, as you're living proof of.
And I think the formal medical system is starting to catch up a little. I think they're finally getting to realise actually there's more to this adrenal fatigue than we were acknowledging.
I would agree from my interactions with healthcare practitioners. I think the pain world is years ahead of the fatigue world, but we're getting there. We're getting there. When I first started this work, I had a discussion with some local medical clinic about neuroplasticity, and 3 of the 4 doctors hadn't heard that term.
Wow.
And only one had heard the term, and they didn't get how it connected in with, say, chronic pain conditions. And neuroplasticity is how pain becomes chronic. So that was a long time ago. And now most people listening to this have probably, hopefully, heard the term neuroplasticity. So it's changing slowly.
Yes.
And thanks to your stories, Jackie, and people like you, it's changing even faster. So hopefully people hear this and just take from it that recovery is possible. That's huge.
Living life to the full at 72.
Excellent. Well, thank you for your time, Jackie, and maybe we can catch up, if not in Melbourne, sometime elsewhere.
That would be marvellous.
Excellent. Thanks,
and
Jackie.
I'll bring my little duck with me.
Love it.
Thank you, Ian.